Back here on HQ, looking at the odds to win the Super Bowl entering the 2024 season. So reminder, this is last year. You see the San Francisco 49ers at plus 550 on top of the list. Then the Kansas City Chiefs, who are looking for that three-peat, right after them at plus 600. The Ravens following suit. Now looking at the most losses in a season after a Super Bowl loss, the Raiders topping that list. 4-12 in 2003 after winning Super Bowl 38. And looking at you, San Fran, last season going 6-11. This is a list you do not want to be on.
I was on that 99 Falcons team.
Congrats.
Yeah.
Good job. Danny Kanell, Pete Prisco.
We lost. Injuries have a lot to do with it. Jamal Anderson set the record for carries in 98 when they went to the Super Bowl and lost. And then it was either week 1 or 2. He held out all offseason, got his new deal. First week, Hurts tears his ACL, done for the year.
That's it.
Team was done.
That's it. That's all it takes. That's why injuries just can ruin seasons. All right, we're going to break down the offseason needs for the NFC West, and we're going to kick it off with the Niners. Not the season that they were expecting. Brock Purdy entering the final year of his rookie contract. Pete, where do you think Purdy stands? Is there a point where we can expect him to sign an extension at this point?
Well, I think you have to.
Yeah.
And he's going to get big money. I mean, there were times last year where he carried that team, and they weren't very good around him, and he did do some good things. Now the question becomes, where's the money go to? Does it get to $50 million? Do you pay Brock Purdy $50 million? Well, you know, look, I think they're in a situation where they're going to have to pay him, and they will pay him. And if they do, then now all of a sudden the clock starts beating again on your salary cap. And what do you do? They've got a lot of decisions to make. That's why Deebo Samuel is on the trade market, or will be on the trade market, and should be on the trade market, because quite frankly, I don't think he was very good last year. Looked a little overweight, looks slow, sluggish. They need to fix their offensive line. You know, Trent Williams has to stay on the field. That's important, obviously. And then they have some other issues as well. So I think getting the defense figured out, Robert Saleh back in there, I think that's good for them, but they have to figure out what they're going to do with Brock Purdy first and foremost.
I think there's a couple contracts you could look at. I look at what the Packers did with Jordan Love, which on paper reads as a 4-year, $55 million average annual value, but in reality, it's a 3-year deal that's $110. I think if you can get Brock Purdy to agree something like that, where you're going to have the 3 years where you're guaranteed a lot of money, and then if you're playing well and it continues, then you restructure and you just keep kicking the can down the road and restructure your contract so it's a little bit more cap friendly. But I do think this is where it gets really interesting, because I'm sure Brock Purdy's agent is like, we want to break the bank. We want to have, you are a starting quarterback in the NFL, and we know that typically that happens where you set the new highest value. I wonder if Brock Value realized what a situation he's in with Kyle Shanahan, with Christian McCaffrey, with Kittle, with some of the weapons that he's got around him, and being able to spread some of that money out. But that's a conversation that he has to have with his agent, see if they can come up with a deal that I think looks good when you read it as a headline, but it's much more cap friendly.
Yeah, and look, if it looks like an average of $50 million on paper, they can brag about it. You know how that goes, even if it isn't what it is. But and if you're Purdy, you do want to get as much money up front as you possibly can, because that's the way this league operates. But it's going to be a tough negotiation, because you have to sit here and say, is he really one of those elite quarterbacks? And you know, he's going to get paid like it, but should he get paid like it?
I think he's Jalen Hurts. I think he could be the exact same quarterback as Jalen Hurts. If you put him on that Eagles team, I think he could have won that Super Bowl.
That's a big statement right there.
What you
but
say.
I do think they're similar.
Eagle fans come at you.
They will. They can bring it, because I think they're very similar. I think they're great winners. They have a great mentality. They bring good leadership. They can take you to a Super Bowl, and Hurts just proved he can win one. I think if you put Purdy in a situation like he's already been there and been to the Super Bowl, he can win one too.
All right, let's move on to the LA Rams, a team that has been to a Super Bowl. Cooper Kupp on the trading block now. We're going to chat about that more in a minute. Matthew Stafford, I mean, that's just a quarterback that's in limbo right now. We've heard his name multiple times on this show so far. What happens?
Well, I think he has no guaranteed money on his contract this year. And if you're one of the quarterbacks in this league and you look around at the money being thrown around, you're saying, hey, wait a second, I need to get some of that. So I think they're going to negotiate. I think they'll try and get a deal done. But if they can't, then obviously you got to do something about that. But I asked the Rams this: what's your solution if you get rid of them? How are you fixing that position? Do they go get Aaron Rodgers? I mean, he has a home in L.A.
To go to LA.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
He has a home in L.A. So, do you draft the guy and maybe, wait until next year when the quarterback class is pretty good, let Rodgers play for 2 years and then draft the guy? I think when you look at what the Rams did in the playoffs, they came back in that game against Philly and had a real chance to beat him in the snow because of Matt Stafford. If you're the Rams, you got to figure out a contract and let him finish his career with the Rams. You traded the assets to go get him. I don't know what you're going to get for him if you trade him, but I think you have to keep him there, and I think they will.
I agree, and I think Matthew Stafford wants to finish his career there. At this point, he's 37 years old. I don't think you want to
the whole family.
Yeah, exactly. They all like it. I think it makes sense. I think they figure out a way to get it done. Part of that is the pain of getting rid of Cooper Kupp, trying to get. Remember, Les Snead was pretty vocal about screw them picks. Remember, now he's trying to recover some of those by trading away one of the faces of the franchise. But that's what the price that comes with. You have to pay the piper sometime down the road.
They're slow. The Rams are a slow team, and I think Cooper Kupp kind of plays into that. He's slower than he was, which was never a burner to begin with. They don't scare anybody down the field. Puka Nacua is a good receiver, but doesn't scare you down the field. Kyron Williams, good running back, but he doesn't have the home run speed. They need to get faster. I think that's priority number one for them after they figure out what they're going to do with Matt Stafford.
All right, next team we need to figure out what they're going to do. The Cardinals, their head coach, Jonathan Gannon, in his second season, they doubled their win total. They were sitting in first place in the NFC West mid-November, and then things kind of fell off. Where do they begin? Where do they need to spend some money, Pete?
Well, they're another team that needs to get better on the defensive line. Their defense was feisty. They did some really good things. I think Gannon really did some good stuff with that defense. The defensive coordinator is a good young coach. But you only can do so much when you don't have players. And you look around that defense, they didn't have a ton of players. So they need to get better on that side of the ball. I think when you look at, look at White, unrestricted free agent, did some really good things. But do you bring him back? He was one of the leaders that they loved. So I think they need to address defense. They need to get a big body in the middle of that defense, a guy who can really stop the run and impact them on the defensive side of the ball.
Good news is they have a ton of money to spend. Kyler Murray's kind of looked like he's matured to a point.
Tailed off a little bit at the end of last season, which was concerning.
He did, but they don't have any contract issues to worry about with him.
Nope.
So you have your quarterback under contract for the foreseeable future. So I think this is a time where you spend on the defensive side of the ball. Like you said, you've got a defensive-minded coach. I would think that's what they address first.
Okay, last but not least, we got Seattle. Mike McDonald's second season. They got a new DC. They're changing things around offensively, bringing in Clint Kubiak as OCO there. Where do the Seahawks take that next step, Pete?
Well, it's funny because we could have the same conversation about almost every team. The offensive line.
Yeah,
you look at their offensive line. They had major issues on that group last year, and they couldn't really do the things they wanted to do, which is why they made a change at coordinator. So now you got to get better up front. You got to protect the quarterback. You got to be able to let him throw the ball. He took a lot of hits last year, and they didn't run the ball the way they want to. So I think first and foremost, the offensive line has to be a priority.
Especially when you have a QB like Geno Smith, who's not the most mobile guy. He's more of an antiquated guy that's like Matthew Stafford, kind of a throwback now with the way we've seen quarterbacks running the football. So it is imperative they keep him upright and healthy, because I know Clint Kubiak is going to want to have a run-based attack that can establish the ground and protect their quarterback with a play-action pass.
It's funny. I was on a station in Seattle, and they asked me where are the Seahawks in the division, and if I answered that question honestly going into next season, I would probably say they were fourth. Right? Wouldn't you? I mean, with the Cardinals having the money, they're going to be able to go add to that roster. A lot of good young players. I think the Cardinals may have moved ahead of them.
Well, a lot of O-line help needed out there. So if you're an O-lineman, you're in a good spot right now. We got not a running back though. No, we don't need any of those. Pete Prisco, Danny Kanell. Appreciate you guys as always. Looking at key dates in the NFL free agency running through March 4th at 4 p.m. The NFL Combine starts on February 24th through March 3rd. New league year officially beginning on March 12th, and the NFL Draft, that one's circled April 24th.